A very warm welcome to you.
Thank you.
One of the things that caught my eye was this buzzword of new generation African leaders. Just talk to us a little bit about what you envision and what this new generation of leaders is supposed to accomplish.
Certainly. So my passion is about Africa and about its future, and I believe that the greatest lever for change on this continent is leadership. And when I look at the leadership we've had in this continent, I believe that we've had three generations. Generation one are the leaders who brought us independence in the 60s. And this is Kwame Nkrumah from Ghana, Julius Nyerere from Tanzania, and so forth. And the generation two then are the leaders who came after that, and their legacy was really chaos and warfare and coup d'etats. And these are the leaders who gave Africa really the bad reputation. So this is Idi Amin from Uganda, and Mobutu Sese Seko from Zaire, and so forth. Thankfully, most of those leaders are gone now. Then generation three are the leaders who came in the last 10 to 15 years. And these are the leaders whose main legacy has been to bring peace and stability to Africa. So this is Kagame in Rwanda, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf in Liberia, and so forth. But what none of these generations of leaders have managed to accomplish for Africa is to bring prosperity. Despite 50 years of so-called political independence, we're still economically not independent. And so we believe that the legacy that this new generation of leaders, generation four, that's coming, must be that they are the generation that brings prosperity to Africa. Because we believe unless we can create our own wealth and prosperity, we will forever be dependent on the rest of the world.
What I like from what I was reading from your website and your philosophies and why you founded this organization was really more about ownership, it seemed to me. It seemed as though your organization, you and the people that you've joined with, are not pointing fingers and saying it's so-and-so's fault. You're taking ownership and saying, well, these are the problems that we have, and this is one of the things we believe can change that.
Exactly, because we need to stop blaming the rest of the world for our problems and really taking ownership of our own destiny. And what we're saying is that this new generation that's coming out must, look forward over the next 20, 30 years and say, how can we contribute to make sure that when we are gone, that Africa is a much more prosperous place to be.
So I want to talk about networking, because you say that's really important, for business and for people to be able to communicate, for deals to be able to not just be here in South Africa or in Nigeria, but that you could have those deals being made, across countries. Just speak to us about this network, and there are quite a few on the continent, but what makes this one powerful and effective?
Well, I think one of the most powerful things about this is that it's focusing on a new generation of leaders. That's one. And secondly, we are all about building relationships between people. It's not a talk shop where people come and listen to conference speakers and have one overarching agenda that we're trying to follow as a collective. We're saying that each of the members of the network are doing distinctive things in their own regards, and how can we empower them further and support them in whatever they're already doing to create more jobs for people in Africa, to facilitate investment across the continent, and so forth. Because when we look at Africa's prosperity, we realize that it's not going to happen on an individual country level. Our economies are too small to create large business of scale. We do very little trade with each other as African countries, And so when we talk about a GDP of $2 trillion or dollars, or a population of 1 billion people, that's all meaningless unless we can bring the continent together.
Do you find, though, I mean, I'm looking at you and I'm just thinking, you look young, you are very young, and I was reading your profile, you do have a lot of entrepreneurship experience, and some things that have been really successful. We're going to talk about that in a bit. But do you find that when you talk about new generation African leaders, that you've got the older people in business, the older people in government looking at you and saying, you're really young, what can you tell us? or do you find that they're looking at you and saying, well, you're young, you might have some fresh, inspiring ideas that could help us do things a little bit differently and be more effective?
Yes, by and large, we find that we get the respect of the elder generation of leaders, and frankly, even if we don't, we think there's enough work to be done that we should just get on with it. We're not asking for permission from the elders to allow us to build businesses and create jobs for people on the continent and facilitate investment across Africa, which is what we're trying to do. So we're saying that there's work to be done. Let's get on with it. Let's develop our continent. And it doesn't matter how old we are. If we have something to contribute and can make a change, let's do it.
And what is the excitement that you're seeing from other young entrepreneurs?
Well, I think there's never been a better time to be young and in Africa. You know, when the rest of the world is declining, you know, economically, we are just starting to take off. You know, I think that we are today where China was 20, 30 years ago. And, you know, we're in the right time at the right place. And so if you are able to harness this opportunity and build relationships with other African leaders across the continent, and really ride this wave that's happening over the next 30 to 50 years, we can really make a difference on this continent.
We were speaking to a private equity investor, African, working in Nigeria, working in different countries actually across the continent. And one of the problems they found, and one of the things that you talk about, is how to attract venture capital. And one of the things that they were saying is that other than forming the deal, you also have to, you know, when it comes to entrepreneurship, African entrepreneurs are still very green, still very young, that other than doing the deal, you now have to go through a whole training process of this is what you do. How much is your organization going to deal with that, just in terms of before you can even do the deal, there's so much other experience that has to come into play?
Well, I've been involved in founding another organization called African Leadership Academy, which I think is more addressing this other issue. What we do there is we identify young people from all across the continent that we believe have the potential to really transform Africa. We start educating them at a very early age, at age 16, 17, and then we get them into the best universities in the world. And so this is really Africa's best class talent, world-class talent. And the people that are coming out of the academy can compete with people that are coming out of the best business schools in the world. And so, yes, it's a longer-term problem that needs to be addressed in terms of creating the human capital on the continent, such
and
that
again, I like that you're doing that. You're not just saying, well, you know, everybody talks about the education system and how it's gone to rot in South Africa, and that you've started this academy. What is it about your academy that is different? Because what you're saying is you're creating leaders, and leaders that will be able to put those deals together, will be able to compete with other global leaders. What is it that makes this academy different to other schools that may be available?
Well, one thing that makes us different is our selection process. So we identify young people who, even though they're young, have demonstrated exceptional leadership and entrepreneurial ability. So they've started ventures, they've launched political initiatives in their countries, and we're looking for the African Mark Zuckerbergs and Bill Gateses, who all started these initiatives when they're 19 or 17. So we bring them into the academy, we educate them there, and then we send them off to the best universities in the world. But they all have a contract with us that they must return to Africa by the age of 25 and stay for at least 10 years. And so that, commitment to stay on the continent instead of staying on Wall Street is another thing that's very different about what
I'd imagine if they're rubbing any shoulders with you, they are going to be passionate about the African continent. I want to talk a little bit, though, about social entrepreneurship, because that seems to be something that you feel strongly about. Because I mean, this school, for instance, you were telling me that 85% of the young people that come to the school are on full scholarships.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I think that we need all kinds of entrepreneurship to transform Africa. I really don't see much of a difference between regular for-profit entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurship in Africa, because whether you're making money in Africa through your business, you're creating jobs for people, you're feeding people, and ultimately you're contributing to the uplifting the common man in Africa. And whether you're funding it on a non-profit basis, the same thing. So all entrepreneurship for me in Africa is social entrepreneurship. And it's really a matter of saying, what is the correct legal form that you need to accomplish your goals. But we need all kinds of entrepreneurship in Africa to transform Africa ourselves.
I have to ask you this at the end of your life, because I mean, a lot of the things that you're doing now are so amazing, so dynamic. But what is it at the end of your life that you would like to have said that you had achieved for the African continent?
Well, what I would like, when I'm on my deathbed, is to look back and to see these thousands of leaders that have come out of the African Leadership Academy, and these thousands of leaders who have participated in the African Leadership Network. And all of them are collaborating and transforming Africa. And hopefully one has become the next Nelson Mandela, another is a central bank governor in this country, another one is a CEO of our own Microsofts, and collectively these leaders are transforming Africa and are really making us proud to be a continent.
Oh, I hope people look you up. It's the African Leadership Network. I hope they look up your organization, and that businesses will look at. I mean, I was saying to you, my first kid is just over a year, and already I'm wanting to put him on the waiting list of your school. But thank you so much for joining us. It was absolutely fantastic speaking with you.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Fred.